Well, for a start, you have to put out of your mind the feat of Hadrianic engineering you see today, because this is actually the third building on the site and 140 years after the original foundation by Agrippa in about 27 or 25 BC. And what we know really is actually firm is that the original building occupied the same footprint as the Hadrianic reconstruction. It apparently had a portico in front, but the encircling wall of the rotunda was only about a metre high, which is very perplexing and has led to some really unsatisfactory reconstructions. So the Beaux-Arts version by Eugenio La Rocca up above, for which actually there's very little archaeological evidence, and which might actually refer to the second building on the site, because almost everybody seems to forget that between Agrippa's Pantheon and Hadrian's there was a reconstruction by Domitian, and then this slightly bizarre reconstruction by Andreas Gruner below, which just can't be right. I mean, you just have to look at it to see that. However, there is one detail in it that I propose we take seriously, and I mean actually that very low circular wall. And I have to explain why, and again, it's just a hypothesis. If you trawl Roman histories, you'll find that before the Temple of Vesta, there were apparently no built temples. Romulus had only dedicated altars, and these stood within Templar precincts, that is, fenced in consecrated grounds that were open air and looked directly at the stars. This is because, as Varro and others tell us, the very first Romans had worshipped the forces of the cosmos through direct observation alone, meaning they observed the commotion of the stars in the heavens. There were no gods with names and bodies, therefore no idols, and no need to build temples for them either. The relevance of the building we know as the Pantheon, the temple of all the gods, to this theory depends on another hypothesis. Filippo Corelli argues that the Pantheon stands on the exact spot known as the Marsh of the Goat, where Rome's founder Romulus had disappeared in a fog whilst holding court. Once the fog cleared, he disappeared, and it was judged that he had ascended to join the gods, where he took on the new name of Quirinus. And according to Corelli's theory, Agrippa founded the Pantheon on this precise spot to memorialize this event. And if that's true, then the circular plaza of Agrippa's Pantheon was consciously archaizing, recalling that the earliest sacred foundations were mere enclosures, and it faced the heavens of heavens to which Romulus had gone and where Augustus hoped to follow. It could recall the most archaic tombs, ringed simply by a line of stones, and which were consecrated with altars and were therefore Templar themselves. And on this point, it's also important that this incarnation of the Pantheon still had some sort of facade, not quite as bulky as the one we see in Gruner's reconstruction, I think, and that this facade pointed east, not east rather, like most temples, but pointed north across the Campus Martius towards the mausoleum of Augustus. That was being completed as the Pantheon was being begun. The mausoleum was the burial place of Augustus, so the de facto first emperor, and for his dynasty, the family of the Julii. And this behemoth of earth, retained by huge walls, record, as I've already said, the most ancient tumuli of Etruria and Sabina. And on top was a gilt bronze statue of Augustus awaiting deification. In short, two archaizing structures faced off across the campus, one a hero shrine to Rome's founder, the other a mausoleum to her first emperor, altogether implying a continuity between the two, and that Augustus was the new Romulus. And you may already know that when Hadrian eventually built the Pantheon with a dome like a Greek sundial, this allowed the building to function as a solar calendar. And as its spotlight advanced around the perimeter of the building, it came to illuminate the main door on the anniversary of Rome's very foundation, the 21st of April. Of course, the oculus was not just a way of letting light in, it also afforded a glimpse of the heavens to which Romulus had gone.